22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
Welcome. You are tuned into Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show, episode 364. I am your host, AJ Woodson. Damon K. Jones is not with us today, but I do have my partner, Dr. Bob, joining me today. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, AJ, what's happening, man? I'm sorry, brother. You can see I'm having a little technical difficulties.
Yes.
That's a little better. Everything's good, brother. Wonderful to be with you again on air after a bit of a hiatus. So, yes, looking forward to tonight's conversation.
So, yes, Dr. Bob is with us. Everybody, when you're not here, everybody goes, "What? How's Dr. Bob doing? Where's Dr. Bob? I haven't seen him in a while." Well, he's back in living color today. So, we're continuing on with our celebration of Women's History Month. Again, as you all know, I have the book out right now. Black Westchester Celebrates Black Women of Westchester. I'm doing the library tour. I'm doing speaking engagements all throughout Westchester County. I have some stuff coming up. I have to pull that up before the end of the show and share it with you. Thank you, everybody, again, who came out to Greenberg Public Library, Mount Vernon Public Library, and all the other libraries where I spoke at. Dr. Bob, we lost you real quick, your camera, my brother.
Yeah, no, I didn't want everyone. This is enough, I just had to get together a little bit more. Forgive me.
Okay. So we're going to go straight into the show. We got a good show. We got a couple of guests. I'm going to let Dr. Bob introduce our guests for hour one. Take it away, Bob.
So, continuing our observation of Women's History Month here in Westchester County, we have the honor of having on air with us tonight two honorees for the inaugural gala, which is being sponsored by the nonprofit arm of Rough Riders Entertainment, Rough Riders Foundation to the Rescue. Tonight's honorees are Mrs. Darlene Shamsuddin and also Miss Stephanie Reed. Both have extraordinary biographies, and we wanted to invite them on air, firstly, to share with us the accomplishments they themselves have racked up in order to deserve this honor, but also to talk about the broader effort on the part of Rough Riders Entertainment and specifically their nonprofit arm, Rough Riders Rescue to the Foundation, to talk about the work that they're doing and to extend an invitation to the Westchester community to participate and support the event by turning out next Saturday, March 25th, from 5 to 10 p.m. And AJ, I'm going to quickly share.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so we can get a shot of. For anyone who is interested in attending, I don't need to say that. Oh, what did I do wrong, AJ?
I
I'm
don't know.
yeah, I'll have to work on that. Forgive me, everyone. It's really been a while. You can see. Um, to give everyone an opportunity to, AJ and I and Damon and so many other people associated with the program have tried to underscore the need for people to give their support to worthy civic causes. And I don't think there are many that could be more deserving of the effort of the Rough Riders to Rescue Foundation to try to galvanize our community for the challenges we confront. And so with that, I'd like to welcome Mrs. Darlene Shamsuddin and Miss Stephanie Reed to the show.
Hi.
Welcome, ladies. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yes, yes.
Thank
So
you.
it's an immense pleasure to be with the both of you. I can't tell you how much AJ and I and so many other members of the show make it a point of duty to try to support civic causes of the kind that you're both involved in as honorees and also as supporters behind the scenes. And so we wanted to generate some, turnout from the Westchester community by having y'all on to talk about, this event and why you're honorees, broadly speaking. And to begin, I'd like, originally I was actually hoping to allow Mrs. Shamsuddin, Darlene, to introduce herself first because she's the senior member of the party. I think we could say safely.
Thanks.
But
That's okay.
I
Yes.
do know that Stephanie has had an unexpected change of plans. And despite this, she made it a point of duty to be online with us. And so, Stephanie, we did want to give you an opportunity to share with us your biography. Now, I have to say that I read both of your biographies, and I must say, I was quite impressed. You each have an extensive biography. But to begin with you, Stephanie, I do know that you're a native of White Plains. And in addition, have been a central actor in so many civic causes, including as an ordained elder in your church. And, in reading your biography, it reminded me of some similarities that you share specifically with AJ Woodson. He will not mind me touting the fact that he is the author of many books, including a book of Christian.
Okay, so I wrote a book. Two things. First off, I'll let everybody know that this is being streamed live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can go to my page, AJ Woodson, and you can share it to your page so all your people can watch it as well. That's one. Two, the book that he's referring to, I wrote in 2008. I had a Christian hip hop radio show, a magazine called Spiritual Minded, and I wrote a daily devotion. I took hip hop lyrics, and those little devotional books they give you in church, and I combined them, and it was Spiritual Minded, the daily devotion for the hip hop generation, and it was meant for those who are not in anybody's church and they're not reading the Bible, and it was breaking it down to something that they could understand, hopefully bringing, teaching them about faith and spirituality and all that stuff. So, yes.
Okay.
So, yes, Stephanie, if you'd like, the floor is yours. Why don't you give us more by way of introduction? I just mentioned a brief tidbit of your accomplishments, so you could start out with some more. You got some more stuff to tell now. Don't make me embarrass you now. I'll tell it if I have to.
First, I want to thank you both for having me, and also shout out to Damon. I know Damon from when I was living in White Plains, and all the great work that he's been doing, as well as you, AJ, and Dr. Bob. So I want to thank you for having us on today. And I have to give a shout out to my other mom, Darlene, for allowing me to go before her. Thank you. I just know that people will come in the car, and I'm actually moving around, but I'm going to stay on until the end. I just wanted to be able to be by myself now so I can do it. So thank y'all for allowing me to do that. I had a whole nother background and all of that, but I didn't want to miss it. So thank you again for having me. And I'm just Steph. Most people know me from White Plains, born and raised in White Plains, New York. I now live in Atlanta, Georgia. But if you call me on any given day, I could be anywhere across the United States. So that's just me. I'm actually right now in Florida, just came from Chicago, and then before that, New York, and then Atlanta. So I go back to Atlanta tomorrow. So that's just me. I move around a lot. But I'm honored and privileged to be a part of this. Honored and privileged to be a part of Rough Riders to the Rescue. As most of you know, Rough Riders mostly is known for the music, the DMX, the Locks, the Eve. A lot of them are know us by the bikes, which we call lifestyle. What we're trying to get out and let people know is about Rough Rider to the Rescue, which is our 501c3 nonprofit organization. In doing that, I worked a few years in Jamaica, Queens, New York with Erica Ford with what they call Life Camp. I was her program manager. That was my first time being introduced to this work on the streets, violence interrupters, hospital. Hospital outreach workers and hospital responders and mediators, and I actually helped her run Life Camp. In doing that, I learned a lot. And as you know, Rough Riders is all over the world, not just the United States. So working with the CEO, as you know, shout out to Joaquin Dean, and our sister Sandra, the other mom, his mom, Sandra Adams, and even Mr. Dean, because you know that is a family business. It started with Siobhan D and Y with the music, and it went on to Lifestyle, the bikers. So just a little history. Siobhan is the one that actually started years ago when they were doing the music and the bike. She started Rough Rider to the Rescue. What happened was after the music, as you know, went on, D got into the accident, and the music kind of went away a little bit. You can't run from the R. I don't care. I mean, DMX was born raised on the R, and he died on the R. So you have the Locks, the Eve, you have Jadakiss. It's just part of them, the R. However, we are still doing music, lot with what we call young riders, and with that being said, I was like, you know what, Steph, I really want to do that same kind of work, but I want to do it a little different. I don't want it to be so funded that we're locked in. I want to be able to go to any city and, as he called it, standing up a city, bridging the gap between the politics, the industry, and the streets. Like you were saying, AJ, some people just don't go to church. So you created that book where they will read and still learn about Christ or still learn about the Lord through that book because they may never walk in a church. So there are people on the street that we're trying to get off the street. And when we say street, I'm talking about people who want to change their life from gangs, who want to get out gangs and don't know how. Young kids who are actually on the street and homeless because their mom or their dad is in jail or on drugs. So that's what we're trying to do now. And right now we're working with Standing Up Yonkers. Right now, as we speak, they are actually at the studio grinding, working right now. Got off a call with them, making sure he got people on the street. Why has invested a lot of time, money, and energy out of his own pockets to make this happen. We have 2 vans that are wrapped. You might see all around Yonkers, Rough Rider to the Rescue. We got 4 smart cars that ride all around. We've been in Mount Vernon. We've been in Newburgh. We've been in Peekskill. We've been in Rochester. And we've been around many different counties, cities in New York. And ultimately, our goal is to go from state to state. So I hope there's a small introduction about what we're doing. And our goal is to stand up Yonkers. So that's where we're at right now. And that's what we're trying to do. So I am actually the executive program director for Rough Rider to the Rescue as a volunteer.
When Dr. Bob sent me your picture, I'm like, she looks very familiar. I have seen her before, and now I know why, because I've seen you, dealing with Rough Riders, and probably maybe at something in White Plains for Kenny Chamberlain or something.
Yes.
Or I've seen you. Yes. So I know I've seen you. Yes. So
Yep,
that's
Reed,
great.
and
That
if
is
anybody
great.
know us in White Plains, most people know my brother Weston Reed, and we always do the park and the basketball games and the cookouts. So born and raised right there on Ferris Avenue.
Right. And I think I met you, one of my other partners, Brian Marable.
Okay,
Used to do
the
Conscious
Marble.
Brothers.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
So I think
yes.
that's when I first met you at some cookout that the correction officers were doing in the park or something, and I think I met you with Brian or something
Yeah,
years ago.
I've
Years.
been around. Like I do community work also in the correctional facilities, Rikers Island, Westchester County Jail, and Valhalla, group
Mm-hmm.
home. So whenever I come to New York, I'll say to them, hey, I'll be here for a week if there's anything you want me to do. But
Okay.
yes,
Absolutely.
well, again, I truly appreciate this opportunity to expose the work that we're doing more than anything.
Lastly, and before we switch, I want to so I actually put out 2 books in 6 months, and I'm working on my 3rd book coming out in August. It's the 50th anniversary of hip hop, so I'm documenting Westchester hip hop. It's a book called "We Got Our Own Thing: A Look at 914 Hip Hop." So I will probably be picking your brains a little bit about that later on outside of the show, for some comments or whatever for the book.
No problem. No
Yes.
problem.
So
Take it away, Bob.
Yes. So, Steph, we're going to come back to you in a minute to have a more in-depth review of the mission and focus of Rough Riders to the Rescue Foundation. But I want to take the opportunity to introduce to our audience one of the namesake honorees of next Saturday's inaugural gala fundraiser, Mrs. Darlene Shamsuddin. We're just going to call her Darlene, but Mrs. Shamsuddin, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on air. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? I have reviewed your bio as well, and I can tell you that I was very impressed. The term that came to mind in thinking about your accomplishments is trailblazer. I am aware, amongst many things, of the real deficit of Black women in the technology sector. And in many respects, I was saying to myself, Darlene, we have our own, what is the numbers movie, AJ, help me. My memory's failing me. About the Black women scientists who did programming for NASA. Yes.
Hidden Figures or Hidden
Figures.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry, not numbers, Hidden Figures. Excuse me. No wonder you both look so puzzled and consternated. In any case, wrong term. But you reminded me of our own local Hidden Figures with the real pioneering work that you've done in the area of technology. I know that's just one of the accomplishments for which you are being honored. But why don't you start out by telling us about your professional accomplishments, and then maybe you can segue to the civic contributions that you've made since closing out your career.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you both for this honor for me. You're honoring me separately from the Rough Rider honor, and I appreciate the invitation and the patience and the kindness you've extended in getting me on here. And I just want to say, before I talk about my background, I want to talk about somebody else's background who's here with me just really quick, which is my husband. And that's because he is the father of Rough Riders. He's our elder spokesman, and his sons are the ones, Wah and Dee, and Siobhan, his daughter, that brought the world Rough Riders to the world. So I'm just gonna give him a quick. There he is. Shout out.
Yes. So somehow we lost you, but I have to say, AJ, until they return, I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Shamsuddin Elbert at a fair not long ago, and AJ, because the crisis of the Black community is something that's in the forefront of our mind, I was struck to see the gathering of these elders. It was in celebration of my man's father, Harold McCoy Sr., who's been a real mainstay of the Black community here in Yonkers. And Mr. Shamsuddin Elbert gave some remarks. And one of the things that he urged young people who are coming up in their footsteps to do is to follow their lead and to take up the mantle of organizational leadership. One thing that I was really struck by was the degree to which previous generations understood the importance of forming organizations, permanent organizations, through which we can carry out the vital work of rejuvenating and revitalizing our community. And, I have to say, as someone of intellectual honesty, I think that we have a long way to go before we measure up to the legacy that the previous generation, like Mr. McCoy, like Mr. and Mrs. Shamsuddin have left for us. And so we thank you both very much for your personal inspiration. And I did want to, I was at Mr. McCoy's 80th birthday party not long ago. Darlene, I don't know if you were there.
Yeah,
you probably were. I just didn't, have the pleasure of meeting you then. And, I was struck by the seriousness and the sense of purpose with which your generation took up the charge of civic leadership. And, thank you so much for inspiring us all with your personal example. So on that note, I've talked enough.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for those kind words, and for talking about Mr. McCoy, because he definitely deserves that recognition. So just a little bit of my background. I work right now for IBM Corporation. It's in the Fortune 500, and it's I've been with them. This is my 37th year, I believe, and I started there at night, going to school at night, while my dear husband was very helpful in making sure our daughter was taken care of while I went to those night classes. And that I was studying what was then a new career track called information technology. Now that's, just commonplace, but it was brand new at the time. And after a few years at IBM, I actually left because I was into selling the software to major corporations. But I found that there was another company also much smaller, but also very, very on time, selling some fantastic software. And I just wanted to be with them. So I quit, went to Lotus Development Corporation was the name of the company at the time. They invented 1-2-3
That's
spreadsheet
right.
that some older people will remember. And
I
but
got a little gray.
yeah.
Mm.
But 2 years after that happened, 2 years after I got there, IBM decided that they wanted to own Lotus Development, and they made the biggest purchase at the time of a software company that had ever been done. And that brought me back to being an IBMer. So I said, well, I guess I better stay. So after a few more years, I got promoted a few times, and then was asked to join a group of people who were traveling to different countries to help our business partners. These are other companies that sell software for IBM, but they're independent, smaller companies, and they needed training on how to sell the software. They were not that knowledgeable about it in many cases. So I was blessed with that opportunity to be on that team for about 17 years. So I got to visit a lot of countries, about 36 at last time I looked. And it just found that it was an eye opener for me. And I love to travel anyway. And I always have said that African Americans and Americans in general really need to travel outside the US more and understand what's going on in the world around us, because we don't get that kind of news that often and in a good amount here in the US. So it was an opportunity to really learn about other lifestyles, other people's view of America and of African American in general. And I did find that in many places that I wouldn't expect, I could get into a taxi in China and hear hip hop on the radio. I even heard a Rough Riders song one time. I couldn't believe it. But you visit places and you don't expect these things because you think they're so foreign, and yet when you get there, you find out they're just like us. They like the things that we like. They do the things we like to do. And many, I can't say I met very many people who are not wonderfully open and interested in learning about more about America and African Americans in particular, because we don't, as a people, seem to get to some countries very often. So when they see an African American, and especially a woman, then they would become quite interested in knowing who I was, where do I live. And when I say New York, they would almost melt with happiness, because everyone loves New York. Even if they don't like America, they like New York. So I digress. But I have done a lot of mentoring, both within IBM and outside, on my own. And with my husband in his company, we hire, he's an insurance broker as well, and owns a construction company. So we try to hire youth we can bring in the summer during vacation time, and help them understand how a business is run. We give them work to do in the office, and in some cases, a couple of times, Albert has taken young men, African American men, and taken them onto a construction site to show them how that works, and get them interested. And he himself has helped a lot of people in understanding what career moves they could make. And I try to talk about technology whenever I get a chance, to our people. I am of the Muslim faith, so is my husband, and some of our children. And so we are part of the Malcolm Shabazz Mosque in Harlem, where Malcolm X used to speak. And there I am on many committees, because we give a lot of events. And I also am known as the photographer for the mosque. When we have an event, they like my pictures the best. So I take the pictures and turn them into document those events for our community. And but I have to say, I've had many mentors in my life, and I did not do this by myself. My biggest fan and mentor is my husband, who has been in business himself for over 50, 60 years now. And he always told me, do the best you can in everything, and be all you can be. And he's always supported my decisions, even when I was a little worried that I was making a wrong choice in life. And for that, I can't thank him enough. And we both try to help our children. And I am mom number two. I just want to make that clear. So we have one daughter between us, but Dee, Siobhan, and the others are all my children too. And we all are one close family. Sandra is a wonderful mom number one, and we work together on many things when we need to, like this event. So that's upcoming. She's the executive director. So I want to give her those kudos for that, of Rough Riders to the Rescue, and she's doing a great job. Stephanie, by the way, I must say, is a wonderful, wonderful, not only advocate for Rough Riders, but just a wonderful person. And she will do whatever is necessary. She will stop whatever she's doing if she can, and help you with anything. I have never tried to call her that she didn't get back to me quickly and help me with whatever I needed from her. And I thank her and for being a part. And she's a volunteer. She said it, but she said it kind of quick. I want you to know, for Rough Riders, she's a volunteer. It's not like she gets paid for everything she does. So thank you, Stephanie. I just want to give that public acknowledgement to you too.
Thank you, Mom. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
well, I gotta say,
Can I interrupt real quick? So I just wanted to say we have a great relationship with Mosque Number 7. Brother Hafiz Muhammad has been on our show several times. And Brother Arthur is our brother from here in Mount Vernon. And before that, I had a great relationship with Conrad Muhammad and Khalid Muhammad. When I had a shop in Mart 125 in Harlem, I knew Khalid. So I've had relationships with a lot of, we have close relationships with Mosque Number 7.
Okay, and let me just clarify one thing there, though. Mosque Number 7 is now on 127th Street, and I know all those names you mentioned. We deal with them all the time, and do joint things like this upcoming June. Our mosque is sponsoring our 30th Juneteenth event. which
Right.
is an all-day thing. We're going to have a parade through Harlem, and then a street festival. And Mosque Number 7 will be joining us for that too. And matter of fact, they have a representative on our Juneteenth committee to help make sure that the event goes off well. I'm on that committee as well. Brother Dalil, do you know him? Brother Dajil, I mean. Dajil, do you know him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I know. I know.
He's on the
Yes.
committee. Yeah.
Okay.
So 116th and Lenox Avenue is Malcolm Shabazz Mosque, and that's where we
Okay.
attend. Okay.
And I used to live on 115th and Lenox. Yes.
Okay.
I used to live on 115th and Lenox for like 2 years. Yes. 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 Go ahead, Bob. You were saying.
Yes, I was going to say, you know, it's quite an accomplishment, Darlene, especially given the dearth of Black people in the technology sector, especially women. Really, you know, when I read the Lotus and everything, I was like, oh, my heart was warmed. You'll forgive me. AJ knows I've been working diligently on spreadsheets and stuff like that. So
Okay.
it's near and dear to my heart. You know, but so I wanted to transition back to a discussion of the larger mission of the Rough Riders to the Rescue Foundation. And Steph, as I was reading through the material that you provided to us, one of the things that I noticed that encapsulated the focus of Rough Riders to the Rescue is the so-called triple play, body, mind, and soul. We know that our communities are overwhelmed with a surfeit of problems, just like this problems just never stop. But Rough Riders to the Rescue Foundation does have a particular focus on the myriad problems that we face, the ones that you really think are of great importance. And I was hoping maybe you could just, run through those real quick. Some ideas came to mind for me, but we'd like to hear more about that.
Okay, so the mind, body, and soul with the triple play, of course, we got to start with the mind, because the mind tells the body what to do, what the mouth to say, what to listen, what to see, how you see it, how you intake it. So that's where we're going on the street and seeing and meeting people where they're at, right? Somebody is there looking like they're up to par, but they're homeless. Somebody else might be dealing with domestic violence. So the mind is we're getting them to get to a place that they want to be out of the situation they're in. Their body, we want them to eat right. We'll have nutritional. We'll teach people how to cook. And then we also going to have a fitness program as well. They just opened up a boxing rink next to the studio in Yonkers on Broadway. And then we're also going to have a fitness class that's going to be, like guys doing pull-ups and, like a gym workout. So the soul is huge, right? We just talked about two different faiths since we've been on the phone, right? We know that the Dean family are Muslim. We know DMX was in the name of Jesus. No matter what he was doing, what he was going through, he prayed before he did anything. Get on a plane. We ate, he had to pray, whatever he did. So one thing I will say about Rough Riders, they respect all religions, all backgrounds. And the great thing about that is when you go in the street, you don't know. Sometimes they come out of jail as a 5%er, sometimes Muslim. So when any city that we go into, we meet with the community and we call them faith-based leaders, right? Community leaders like your PALs and your YM and YWCAs. But then you also have a group of people who are faith-based. So that faith-based group of people that we meet with when we go into a city is from all faiths. Because when we go into a city, I might say Jesus, and they're saying, well, I'm Muslim. Then I'm going to say, okay, you could talk to Y. You can talk to D. Because they were born and raised in that and they know that. So when we go into any city, it's definitely the triple play, mind, body, and soul. And we want to be able to reach everybody, like I said, where they're at. So we're not specific to one religion or one belief.
Right. Now, we're somewhat familiar, at least with some of that focus, because the Juice Bar is a well-known landmark here in Yonkers. But beyond that, I know that the Rough Riders organization as a whole and its individual members do charitable work in Westchester and actually in Harlem. One of my friends has been working Devon, AJ, you remember Devon, who was on the show. He has described for me some of the partnership work that he does with the juice bars, some getting refreshments out and opportunities for entry-level entrepreneurialism. So we're familiar with that, and think it's quite commendable kind of undertaking, because the connection between those different levels of fitness, both physical, emotional, and spiritual, we must stay grounded. So now that this is the first inaugural gala, are you guys looking to expand your program in some way, Steph? I'm yeah, go on.
Yep, we are. We actually are in Yonkers, stand up Yonkers. Why I truly believes that if we don't take care of home first, we can't do anything else. You guys talked about Brother Arthur. He was very instrumental when we went to Mount Vernon. He allowed us to use his facility every Sunday. And whatever, he did it as a volunteer thing as well. We gave, give when we could, because this is, again, a nonprofit organization where he's not under any grants or any kind of fundings. We have a website if anybody want to give, they can, but Why is determined to do this from his heart and from his own pocket. So right now we're doing Yonkers, stand up Yonkers. There is talk of us going into Baltimore. Um, but right now, home is first. So standing up Yonkers, we're going into, Yonkers is a north, south, east, west kind of thing. So we're going into like the hottest, as we call hot spots, meaning something is always happening there, whether it's a fight, whether it's school, whether it's bullying, in the 5 points within Yonkers. And that's what they're actually, like I said, they're riding around those points as we speak now. So yes, Yonkers right now. There are cities that call us and say, hey, we just had a shoot in Newburgh was one. Can you guys just come? And sometimes we don't automatically go in and stand up a city, but we will go there and just go and talk to the community, go out with the mayor and just say, what is it that y'all need? What do you guys are think that we can help with? So we might go to a city just to help that city for a particular moment in time. It might not be to stand up the city as per se, but they might call us and say, hey, we had a shooting. Can you come and show your presence? As soon as they see the vans, as soon as they see the R, they start rapping. They start saying, I got a bike. And then we're able to our program, which is great because that's the pull, right? They think of DMX, always going to think of the music and then think of the bikes.
I want to say, like, you talked a little bit about health and wellness and eating healthy. While that is something that's catching on much more now, and you hear a lot more about it. I can remember back in the '90s when we had the shop in Mart 125, and Eve, when the Rough Riders were always there, and Eve would come up, and there was a restaurant upstairs, and she would love to eat the macaroni and cheese and oxtails, and D was like, "Do you know how long it's going to take for that to digest through your system?" And he would be getting on her every time, and she'd be like, "Leave me alone." But I mean, like, that's something that they've been encouraging for a very long time. This is not something they've always been talking health and wellness. So I have fond memories of seeing them do that to some of the artists up there.
Yeah. One thing I will say, and again, I know that Ms. Dean talked about Mr. Dean being there, and I will say that Mr. Dean, Sandra Adams, and Ms. Dean, they have been very, very instrumental. Y&D don't have no history of drinking, smoking, so they're always wanting to talk healthy, always telling us what we should do and how we can do it to make ourselves better. Just to point out, we also have an energy drink coming out. Oh God, I forgot the name of it just that quick. But before I get off, I'll make sure to tell y'all. So 2 things. April 9th, we're going to be having a ride out for D. They passed away. We will be blocking off the street in Yonkers from Rainbow over there on Hudson Street up to Yonkers Avenue. So after the ride out, most of you remember we were at Yankee Stadium. We're going to ride from there and go to the cemetery. Why wants to point out some of the hot spots, areas in Yonkers, and expose those. And then we're just coming here to have a nice time, family time, because it does fall on Easter Sunday. And I'll be able to give you all the flyers on and everything like that. So I just wanted to make sure that we mentioned that. But yeah.
Go ahead, Bob. Yeah.
Yeah. So Darlene and Stephanie, this gala is devoted, dedicated to Women's History Month.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious to know, in addition to the general focus of the mission, as Black women who have decades of experience on the front lines, tackling many of the challenges that our community faces, if you think there are particular issues that Black women are confronted with today that you would hope as the Rough Riders to the Rescue Foundation program matures and expands that you would like to see taken up as part of its broader mission? Things in particular that you believe are especially important to women and Black women in particular.
I'm gonna mention one thing about it, but I'm gonna let Miss Dean, because you got a woman of wisdom sitting here, and I would not, I would be remiss to not let her speak
No
on it.
pressure.
The one thing I could say that I would really want is for us women to go back to us being a village. A lot of times when I'm going to these jails to see the men, and I'm going on these streets, there's a mother missing. There's something missing that we can do. And we have to be able to sense that. I believe God, no matter what religion we are, gives us a discernment to pick up certain things. So I pray to my God, or I pray how I want to pray. And when I pray, I'm saying, help me to discern. You know, it's not about me. Help me as a woman, as a mother, as a sister. You know what I'm saying? As a friend. Just going back to that village concept, and telling our men, most of all, that you are kings, and no matter what record you got. You know, I used to tell them at the county jail, no matter what you did and how long your record is, it doesn't stop you going up to Albany and incorporating your own business. It's not going to stop you from being the CEO that you have been created to be as a lead. However, you might have a case where you can't be around kids, certain stipulations, but it don't stop you from owning your own business. And then we can get the men that come from jail out of the mentality of a CEO mentality of when to eat, when to sit down, when to go to bed, what time to do it. And then when you come home, you have a strong woman telling you the same thing what to do, and not being able to tell that man. So when I say that, I speak a lot with the men, because I feel like if the men are in their proper place, then we can step back from trying to be so doing things that we wasn't really always created to be, if that
Right.
makes sense. You know,
Yeah.
some things we do because we have to do it. But I think as women, we need to always pray to God that don't let me lose my, I always mess up this word, femininity. Don't let me lose it by doing things that I have to do in a temporary situation. Don't allow me to do it that I think it has to be a permanent. It's only temporary because I might be lacking in that area and I just have to do it. But at the end of the day, I want it to be where we can just go back to that village. We can go back to that. We just embrace somebody. It doesn't even have to be the men, just embracing another young girl. You don't have to fight. You don't have to do that. You know, sometimes in an embrace of hugging someone who never gets a hug from their mother, or I know that because it was a time I wasn't doing it, because I just was raised that we just knew our parents loved us. They didn't have to hug us and tell us they loved us, but we just knew it by the actions. But now these kids, a hug goes such a long way. And when you hug somebody, you don't realize how you have helped them go throughout their day, because they can't even remember the last time they had a hug. So it's just more going back to the village.
Yep. And if I could mention, I agree with everything she said. Stephanie's wise beyond her years. But the other thing is also, as women, we sometimes forget how to deal with our children in a way that, we worry about them, their safety, of course. We worry about their grades. We worry about that they get home safely. But what about their mind? We're not doing, I don't think, in a lot of cases, that we do enough to expose them to more and more things, more activities that, as African Americans, we might not think is interesting. We as parents maybe don't think it's interesting, but it might be something that sparks something in a child that they otherwise might never get that spark because they never experienced, looking at the sky at night in a dark place where you can see all the stars that are in the sky. If you live in the city, you may never see that. You might never have a night where you can actually see a planet and know that that's a planet up there, and not just something twinkling, or expose them to mathematics in a different way. You send them to school for math, but did anyone know there's a whole museum of mathematics on 26th Street in Manhattan? That
No, I didn't.
I know, it flabbergasted me too. But that's a place you can take children, and they will learn to love math just from the games and the activities they have there. That makes it fun to see math. So, things like that, as women, we have to do more because we're all busy. And I know I am, that you barely have time to go to work, get home, get dinner ready, and put them to bed. But think about looking up things to take them to, that's free in a lot of cases too, and just let them get exposed to different things that you might not otherwise get them to see and to learn about. Um, and this, I could talk forever on that, but I just Stephanie had mentioned the energy drink. I just remembered I sent my husband to get it out of the car, out of the refrigerator. We have one, so it's called Ride Out, and that's coming out soon, right? And if I could just throw one more thing out there, there's another event, and this is another one in Harlem that our children should be brought out to every year, and that's the African American Day Parade. And that is, you're familiar with it, I'm sure. Yeah.
So, well, we'd like you to elaborate for our audience.
Okay. So this is the 55th, 53rd year of the parade. It's been around all that time, and it is one of the biggest parades. Well, definitely the biggest parade in for Black African Americans in New York, but it's one of the biggest parades. Period. And it comes straight up 7th Avenue or Adam Clayton Palm Boulevard every year on the fourth Sunday in September. So I recommend you bring your children. The bands and participants come from all over the United States, and not just from New York. Baltimore usually sends like 10 bands just out of that one city. So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of music. WBLS, Mr. Bob is always there for us to promote it on the day of. So if you guys, I can give you a flyer if you like to.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I won't tell you. Me and AJ were hanging out with Bob Lee.
Yeah.
About a couple.
Okay. Cool.
One of Mary J's celebration.
Yeah, when I had the company with Brian Marable, Conscious Brothers, and in the Mart, we were in the parade a few years in a row, so we participated in the parade. So it's always a lovely festive situation. So I haven't been in years, and probably over a decade or so, but we were in it a few times in the 90s. So yeah.
Excellent.
I want to. So before time gets away from us, I wanted to give you all a chance, one more time to promote the event that you have coming up. And Stephanie, can you share any contact information or social media information for the Yonkers, the program in Yonkers, so people who might want to get in touch with y'all or any of the programs that y'all doing, how to follow y'all and all that good stuff.
Okay, so you can follow us anytime we post. Everything goes on our Rough Riders. If you're following Rough Riders, it's Rough Riders. Specifically to Rough Rider to the Rescue, it's Rough Riders in the same way we spell it, RUFFRYDERS with the number 2. And then the rescue.org, and you can go straight to our website. Everything is there about the conference for with appreciation this Saturday for the women, for Women's Month, and also the information for April 9th with for the Ride Out for DMX and the Family Day, Fun Day Sunday. And also we have Young Riders. So if you go to any of our social media, Rough Riders, we actually post everything we do on all platforms. So that way, exactly, that's the flyer for this Saturday. And even though it's for women, men are also invited. You still have time to get your tickets and come through. So if you want to, once you go on our website, it automatically comes up. Very simple. You can put an ad in. Hey, Black Westchester, put an ad in. Y'all can get a half a page, full page, quarter page business card. Just thank y'all for having us. That's just a little commercial break. But thank y'all so much for having us.
And the program from Yonkers, the Yonkers program, Stand Up Yonkers or whatever that is.
Well, Stand Up Yonkers is Rough Rider to the Rescue. What portion that is our community watch program, which is the street part. So we have a community watch. There's different entities within all of them. So anything Rough Rider to the Rescue, Stand Up Yonkers is also part of that. So also, I'm glad you said that, because if anybody wants to volunteer right now, if you're from Yonkers, You are credible. One thing I can say about this work, I might be from White Plains, knew DMX, knew a lot of people in Yonkers, even have family in Yonkers. However, I'm not credible on School Street. I can go to School Street, I can go to Ashburns, I can go to Snowbombs all day long. They will listen. Who's credible is who live there. I'm credible in White Plains on Ferris Avenue. That's where I'm credible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm credible in this and where you grew up. So we're looking for people from Yonkers, anywhere in Yonkers. We have volunteers that's my age. We have volunteers that just do administrative work, but we also have a volunteer application. Thank you. You have a volunteer application. Again, if you go to www.roughriders with the number 2 the rescue.org, there's a volunteer application there, and we get it every day. And if there's something you want, it has a lot of questions. A lot of people I'm finding are not doing their passion and their love. One thing about volunteering, you have to love it. You have to love what you do. So there are people who, for example, one lady who works at a school. I was excited. Yes, we're going to be in the schools. She said, but I have a heart for the homeless. I want to be able to feed the homeless. We actually need help doing that. So I will not pull her to do things at the school because that's what she do all day long. I need to allow her to do where her love and passion is, because when you're doing volunteers and you're not getting paid for it, and you're doing it and you feel like you're giving back to your community. So there's nothing better than going into a community, using the community to help their community, because they're going to remember. Each one of us can speak where we live, and if we walk on that block, they're going to know us, and we're able to say, hey, you're looking at kids and you know who their mom and daddy is by the way they look, and you be like, I know your mother, you look just like. And then when you talk like that, the kids understand that you know their mother, their grandmother, or you just know them. So it's important for us to recruit. We're recruiting. We need people who are credible, meaning most of my credible people have come from jail. Most of my credible people have come out and changed their life, and they're able to go on their block and tell them, hey, you don't want to go the route that I did. So we're recruiting. Thank you for allowing us this space. I'm very honored. Again, thanks again to the Dean family, Mr. Dean, who's over there to her left. Miss Dean, thank you so much. Hey, Pop. Look at it. Mr. Dean, there would not be no Y and D without Mr. Dean. Miss Dean also been around, but also Miss Sandra Adams, who's their mom. And she's an instrumental part as well. She's an executive director. She's actually working day and night and hard for this work. And I just love and appreciate her as well.
That's right.
And D.Y. Siobhan for even starting this and us picking it up years later, but her for being the visionary. So I just want to thank the Dean family as a whole. And thank you guys for having me. And again, shout out to Damon. I missed you this time, but I'll catch you next one.
I wanted to say one more thing about walking through other people's neighborhoods. When DMX died, we the Black Westchester, we did a full newspaper, a full issue dedicated to him. And one of our sisters from the show, Lorraine Lopez in Yonkers, was kind of my, for lack of better, my ghetto tour guide, and took me to School Street and took me through Slow Bomb and took me. We printed extra papers just for the hood, and I did an extra 3,500 papers, and it's free, and gave them out to every liquor store, every bodega, every D-boy spot she took me to. So everybody that loved DMX got to get a paper celebrating DMX. So I did the same thing. I had Lorraine take me through. I wasn't walking through some of them areas by myself. So, they know me in Mount Vernon. They don't know me in School Street.
There you go.
Anything I didn't ask you, Darlene or Stephanie, in closing that you would like to share?
The only thing comes to mind is I did mention Juneteenth is coming up in our parade. It's on June 17th. It starts right at 11 o'clock, right across the street from the masjid. And Rough Rider is going to be there too, by the way. They are always part of that event, and they're big supporters of us. So we appreciate them. And our Imam, Ezekiel Pasha, will be there, along with a host of, we're going to have a host of entertainment, and some hip hop and some other types of music. We're going to have a lot of vendors, and vendors, if they want to sell at Juneteenth, they can do that. I will send you a flyer for Juneteenth as well, gentlemen. And if you could just let people know that they can sign up online to participate in the parade, or to do vending, or to buy a float and put that in the parade. We'd love to have that happen.
Speaking of vendors,
I just want to say first, wait, real quick, Bob. I just want to say, it's Women's History Month. My mother always said, "Give me my flowers while I'm alive," and I want to celebrate both of you women. You know what I'm saying, and give you your flowers. You know what I'm saying, and I think that's very important. So, this whole month I want to sell, like, not just this month. I did a whole book celebrating the achievement of African American women in Westchester, but especially this month, I want to make sure I shower y'all with love and give you your flowers as I highlight y'all this month.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to ask
Thank you.
Before we end. Speaking of vendors, are there opportunities for established community-based organizations to partner with Rough Riders to the Rescue Foundation on, joint mission? Yeah.
Yes, it is. Actually, it is. There is, if you give me a second, I'll come out. Let me go in. I'm going to actually, would I be able to give you guys some information we can post after the show? Because I'm not sure I'll go out of it. So anybody who's watching, please, there'll be flyers posted up after this. There is a hotline number that is answered live. So if there's anybody who want to partner with the work we're doing, anybody who want to get sponsorship, anybody that want to say, hey, I want to give back to my community, how I can get involved outside of the volunteer application, there is a number I can give you for that as well.
Wonderful. And
if you share your flyers or whatever, blackchester@gmail.com. When I post this on Black Westchester, I will have the flyers under it. Like, these are the things we were discussing. So, as they're watching the video, they'll read the flyers. So,
yes. Yeah.
So you said send it to Black
Dr.
Westchester.
Bob, take it away and close it out.
Okay.
Yeah,
BlackWestchester@gmail.com.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
BlackWestchester@gmail.com. So it's been a tremendous pleasure to have you ladies on. I am curious, though, in maybe the last few minutes, we have 1 or 2 minutes left. Are there any other honorees who are going to be recipients of awards that you would like to maybe just mention? And I know that I was like, I hope someone remembered some names.
It's like 15. We can actually see about getting you that list. I think it would be awesome to give you that.
Yeah.
Some people are politicians. Some people are just like us, community, just working and just love what we do. So we do have a list of people, and I'll see if we can actually get permission to give that to you and post it, because there will be people probably there that you guys actually know.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure.
Okay.
It's a total of, I think I'm 16 or 15. There's about 15 or 16 women that are being honored. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah. Adrian,
thank you for your time.
Last night. I'm sorry. Adrian is the one that's been helping us and putting that together. She played a very instrumental part. So we want to thank her for this is our first one event that we're doing like this. And she played a very instrumental part in helping it come to pass for us, as well as the gala that we had. So we will be remiss not to mention her.
Thank you, Steph.
Thank you very much for your time. We're about to get into our next guest. I greatly appreciate y'all for showing up. Again, y'all can contact me at Black Westchester, and we can work together on some other stuff. We don't have no money to take out an ad, but we can barter with you, and we can promote you, and you promote us. I can do that for you. I'm the barter king, but yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
it's a pleasure.
Huh?
A pleasure. My honor.
Yeah,
I look forward to seeing you in person.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
Yes.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. We're going to get into the second part of our show after our brief station ID, so to speak. You are now tuned into the People Before Politics radio show, brought to you by the good folks at
Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Check the newspaper. Black Westchester.
talk for the community since 2014.
Yo, AJ, you're gonna.
We are back for hour 2. Black Westchester presents the People Before Politics radio show, episode 363. I am AJ Woodson. Alongside of me is Dr. Bob, aka Brooklyn Bob, aka no, just playing. No.
Yo, I gotta say this
and
real
we had
quick. When I saw the picture, I was like, that's the only picture where anyone could possibly think I was the same size as Damon. I appreciate that, AJ. I know you. That's why you picked that picture.
why that picture? Why you look more buff? You more buff?
D is sitting down in the chair and I'm standing next to him.
Oh, height wise, yes.
yeah. I was like, wow, look at that. So
Yes. So we are about to kick off our second hour, and I would like to bring on our lovely guest co-host Brenda L. Crump. The L is for lovely. How are you?
I am well, thank you. How about yourself, AJ?
Good.
And you, Dr. Bob?
I'm lovely now.
And we have a guest for the second hour. Would you like to introduce our guest, Brenda?
Yes, I would. So we have, is she on?
Yes.
She's there?
As soon as you introduce her, you'll see her. Yes.
Okay, all right, good enough. So we have our acting superintendent of the Mount Vernon City School District, Dr. Kim Smith. She was appointed acting superintendent February 13th. And she is a graduate of Mount Vernon High School. And she's spent the past 20 plus years as an educator and administrator for the school district. I will allow her to, give more of an introduction of herself. But she says that her goal is to maintain the focus of educating our children and to continue to make the education and safety of our scholars her highest priority. So she's going to go into detail and explain that to us. But pass it off to her, AJ, to give a further introduction of herself.
Welcome to the show.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
But just before she begins, Dr. Smith, is it possible that you can do something with your lighting because we cannot see your? Oh, is that the back of your head we're looking at?
No. She's at a window or something, and you can't see her.
I'm at a window. Let me switch things a little bit. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, because we absolutely cannot see no features of your face at all.
I tried my best here.
Yeah, all we saw was your silhouette and the bright the sky behind you.
Okay.
Oh yes.
There we go. Yes.
100% better.
Okay, let me get my chair. I'm so sorry.
Not a problem.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that introduction, Mrs. Brenda L. Crump.
You are welcome. Okay. Great. That's much better.
Okay.
Yes. Now we can see you. Yes.
I thought we was gonna have a picturesque background. That didn't work out, right?
No. But you're good. We want to see you. Yes. So, I welcome to the show. As you heard me say, it's March, and I have a book called Black Westchester Celebrates Women of Black Women of Westchester, and I'm documenting a lot of the achievement of African American women in Westchester. One of the things that drove the book, my mother always said, "Give me my flowers while I'm alive," and I want to start off by giving you your flowers and celebrating you.
Thank you so very much. I know you titled this People Before Politics, but for this segment, could we say Children Before Politics? How's that?
Absolutely. That's what Brenda's all about anyway. Brenda, yes. Number one thing is children. Yes.
So let me tell you a little about myself, because Brenda Crump and I go way back in different aspects of our lives. To begin with, like she indicated, I was born and raised in Mount Vernon. So I started out my early life, though, From 5 weeks to 5 years old, I lived in the Bahamas. My parents are Bahamian. I came back to this country to go to school. My grandfather was from Jamaica, so I have a Caribbean background. I initially had a bone to pick with teachers, believe it or not, because while, in the Caribbean, they speak English, they have a dialect. So when I came to this country to go to school, people would say to me, speak English. And I was speaking English. I just had an accent. So I have a big appreciation for immigrants, and I want them to be respected wherever they come from. Whatever shore if they come from Africa or Haiti or wherever they come from, we have to accept them for who they are. I spent years trying to lose my accent, and that's like a part of my legacy, a part of my heritage. But that was so important to me because I was ridiculed in the front of my classes at Nathan Hill, and that was very troublesome for me. But with that said, I went on to excel. I left Nathan Hale and I went to Graham Elementary School. We moved from 70 West 3rd Street, the projects, apartment 8J, and we moved to what is known as the Heights. So I arrived at Graham School. I left that accent behind, although people used to say my parents should go back on the banana boat. I came and I embraced my culture and who I am, but it motivated me to try to make something of myself. So, of course, I went on to pursue a career. And my career took many turns, but I landed up in the Mount Vernon City School District because that's really where I wanted to work. When I look at our children, for those of us that's been around, this is like Peyton Place. I look at children and see their parents. I love that. We have to embrace our children, our culture, our heritage, and we have to work with our children from wherever they come. But before I continue, I really wanted to have a moment of silence for Zaire Fernandez. Brenda and I attended that prayer vigil on Friday night, and
I was there too.
Oh, you were there too. We have to save our children. So if we could just take one moment for Zaire. Thank you. And I also wish the second kid a recovery, a safe recovery. And I'm hopeful that children will begin to use this incident, this tragic incident, as a way to not allow Zaire to die in vain. So I've been at Mount Vernon City School for 22 years. I was a supervisor of special ed. I did that from 2001 to 2019. I advocated for special ed students. That's a very needy population. That population is near and dear in my heart, and I will always fight for them. I went from being a supervisor of special ed to associate superintendent of student services and guidance. In that position, I really dealt with attendance, suspension, the DASA. I, for the most part, focused on parent concerns and complaints. And then in June of 21, I became the assistant superintendent for pupil personnel services. I continued with many of those previous responsibilities, but at some point I also oversaw special ed again. So, sometimes what goes around comes around. And I spent a lot of time doing that. But I love working in Mount Vernon. I love working with our students. Mount Vernon is my home. These are my kids. my children, my people, they're me. I also want to say that my focus, and people want to know, well, what do you stand for? What do you believe in? I have a concern about our population and their ability to read. Reading is everything for me and will always be my focus. I believe that there's a pipeline to incarceration for students that cannot read. And so I'm I'm really interested in starting like a book club. You know, oftentimes we talk about we're not written into the history books. We pick up a book and it's not, we don't see anything about Black and Brown students. While I'm not able necessarily to rewrite history, what I do feel is that I would like to introduce or reintroduce the reading of autobiographies and biographies to students. This way, we we could help them with our history. My mother introduced autobiographies to me when I was in elementary school, and we used to trade books, and I read many, many, many books. Um, I remember, and I don't want to date myself, but back in the day, I read Claude Brown's Man Child in the Promised Land, Harry Thomas, Down These Mean Streets, Malcolm X's book. I read so many books, many, many, and it helped me become the person I am today. And I want to do that for our students. Now, Brenda Crump, you know that I can go on. I wanted to say how we met. I gave birth to 3 children, but I adopted 5. And you were the president of the Foster and Adopted Association. Remember those days?
I remember those days. Westchester County Foster Adoptive Parent Association.
You were
Yes,
our
ma'am.
fearless leader. You were fighting back then, and you have not stopped. But we kind of took our work home. And that, I believe that's what it's all about.
So I will. Go ahead. Continue.
So I was going to say, yes, you indicated, Brenda, that I'm interested in safety. And of course, you know, we have to be interested in safety. I also want to say that we're partnering with Mount Vernon's, the city of Mount Vernon. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting on last Monday and we have another one this Monday. And for the most part, we're trying to find solutions to our problem with losing our kids. So that's up and coming for tomorrow.
So now I want you, as the acting superintendent. Unfortunately, a lot of people get what they hear from social media. Not all things are true, factual, or logical. But once they see it, they go with it. A lot of people do. There's been a lot of complaints. A lot of people are concerned about our school district. What can you say as the acting superintendent to reassure those about the future of the Mount Vernon City School District?
So as I indicated, I love Mount Vernon. I want nothing more than success and to prepare our kids for the world. Again, to me, one of the things you have to do is surround yourself with positive people. And I can't do it all by myself. So, you know, we have 5 assistant superintendents that's really involved in helping. We have, for example, Dr. Jamal Doggett. He's the assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction. Dr. Doggett has really tried to revamp our curriculum and instruction department because for the most part, we didn't really have things in place. He's revised the K-8 ELA curriculum, and he's placed there's a focus now on balanced literacy. He's revised the course sequence for math and science in grades 7 and 9. He's expanded the STEAM programs in the middle school. we can go on. He's worked on establishing what we call RTI in the district under his leadership. And these things should have been in place, but he's really working his best to make sure things are in place so that our students can excel. Um, uh, he's he has a cadre of individuals that's going into school building, observing teachers, modeling for teachers, and that all comes under curriculum and instruction. Um, you know, I think one of the burning questions right now, and I'm going to beat you to it, Brenda Crump, because you might want to know about STEAM and the exam. Um, I'm not, I don't remember the timeline as to whether you was the trustee at the time when Trustee Ning's vision was for the STEAM Academy to be something like the Bronx Science. Um, so for the most part, it was decided, and I have to say, before I came on, to test students in the 8th grade to enter into the STEAM Academy. We have about 300 odd students that took the test last Thursday. And so the question is whether or not that's fair. We do have 3 high schools, Mount Vernon High School. You know, they really talk about their IB program. They talk about their CTE program. They talk about their academics as well. We have the Denzel Washington program, which you know is the School of the Performing Arts. And then we have the STEAM Academy. So the students did take tests. We'll see how it goes. It's the tests are going to be scored, and we're hoping that we get a great response because we plan to admit at least 200 students to that particular program. Also on the cabinet, we have Dr. Beverly Jones. She's the Assistant Superintendent for Administration, Climate, and Culture. And she's been charged really with putting systems in place. You know, she's looking at the various departments. She's taking a look in terms of what's in place, and if there's protocols that need to be put in place, she'll certainly implement those, as well as she's doing school improvement and grants and a host of other things. Everyone's doing a whole multiple tasks. We also have Miss Marcy Tiggs, who's the Assistant Superintendent of HR. And you know, she's for the most part responsible for hiring staff. Students are not going to learn if we don't have individuals in place that's capable of doing the job. So she has a major, major task. To replace me in my position as the Assistant Superintendent of PPS, we now have an acting Assistant Super of PPS, and that's Dr. Marie Gabaton. And she has to also couple with her diversity and inclusion responsibility. So she's worked on developing policies, but she's responsible too for answering parents' complaints and concerns. We have online registration that I'm very proud of because we shifted from what we used to do on paper to online. So she's available for phone calls and to facilitate any parents that might have issues. And lastly, of course, we have a Assistant Superintendent of Business, and his name is Ken Silva, and we have a monumental task. Since I'm on the subject of business, I just want you to know that although I've been in the position since February 14th, I've gone up to Albany to lobby. I've met with the governor's office. I've met with the commissioner's office. I've had meetings with, on Friday, as a matter of fact, I had a meeting with Senator Jamal Bailey and Assemblyman Pretlow. And, you know, I think everyone's aware that we've been in fiscal crisis. And so I've been lobbying because we need money for our children. I am very, very optimistic. And the reason that I am is because everyone seems really helpful and want to help Mount Vernon and help us move our agenda forward. So I'm really pleased with that because we have a shortage this year of 4.5 million and a shortage next year, and we really need them to assist us because, of course, we don't want to do any cuts or anything like that. Um, I can continue. Were there any questions that you have for me?
So there's one question. We're kind of interactive, so we have questions from the viewers. One person, Arlene Stephen Hines, asks, "What is the acting superintendent, opinion on the current school board decision to reassign Dr. Bennett Conroy, but not to reassign or suspend the two board members who voted in favor of the Just Inspire grant resolution?" I don't know much about this. If you have an opinion and want to speak to it, you can.
So, of course, there's certain things that I cannot discuss. Everyone's aware
Right.
that there's an investigation going on, and I really wish that I could answer that, but I'm not able to.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
Related question.
Go ahead, Dr. Bob.
So firstly, Dr. Smith, allow me to welcome you warmly onto the program. As a fellow educator, I can't tell you how much of a pleasure it is to have you join us on air. I must say that I feel as if I was in some respect cheated because I too am from the Heights. And did not have an opportunity to meet you as a child. Maybe, some tells me I might be a little bit more your senior, and that might explain it.
So wait, Mr. Bob.
Yes.
I have a good memory, and I've had.
See, I got a bad memory. There you go.
I've met you previously, but we won't go there. But I do.
You want me to tell what more and more people are saying that to me? AJ said that to me this morning.
I did meet you. It's all good.
Yes, you will forgive me. AJ will tell you I'm overwhelmed. Yeah. But, so we want to warmly welcome you to the show and commend you for your years of service to the district. And we also wish you well in assuming the leadership of the school district at a very trying time. But I have to say, Dr. Smith, that, before the bond initiative that was successfully voted on, maybe about 8 years or so ago, Brenda?
Yes, about that.
Yes, we had on air former Superintendent Kenneth Hamilton to discuss with the city of Mount Vernon the importance of residents supporting the bond issuance. And one of the questions that AJ and I had for Dr. Hamilton, driven by our audience members, were what kind of controls would be implemented in order to prevent the mismanagement and malfeasance of the city's money. The type of, you said that the city is experiencing a multi-million-dollar shortfall. And it necessitates, going out and shaking the cup and, trying to raise some extra money. But at the same time, your predecessor is accused, Superintendent Bennett Conroy was accused of essentially, mismanaging money to the tune of $8.5 million, according to the New York, to the Low HUD report. And I am not going to shy away from asking this question because I think many of us who closely follow the ups and downs of Mount Vernon's institutions have noticed that there is, it's just a tremendous disappointment. I cannot overstate it, and I do not want to work myself up on air because it's not necessary. But we want to know, I think the burning question for the residents of Mount Vernon are what steps is the district, and in particular, our for lack of a better word, bureaucratic leaders who have the responsibility managing the day-to-day affairs, what kind of policies, proposals are you taking to the board to ensure that whoever sits in your position again is not able to swindle essentially $8 million from the school district when we are so hard hit and so resource starved?
So first of all, I would like to say everyone's innocent until proven guilty. I've worked with Dr. Bennett Conroy. She's helped me with my career, and I'm not going on radio to say anything negative about her. As far as I'm concerned, I'm in a temporary position, and
Yes.
hopefully she'll be vindicated, and this is her position. Now, in terms of why we're in the fiscal position, you know that our district has expressed that the city owes us some money, $11.7 million. You also know we have charter schools in which we pay $12 million to. We can anticipate what that expenditure might be, but we're never 100% sure. So we had a few more students go into charter schools than we anticipate. Um, Special ed is a very costly thing, and you know, students need their services, and if they need it, we have to give it to them. As I indicated, we now have Dr. Beverly Jones, who's overseeing grants and school improvement. We have some policies that's been implemented. I think at the next board meeting, we're going to have 11 policies revamped. So we are putting things in place, but we're not going to talk about someone's character. They're not here to discuss what happened. They're not able to at this particular point. We'll find out soon enough, and we can't rush to judgment.
Okay.
Can I follow up real quick, Bob?
No, let me follow
Okay, go
up.
ahead.
Just one moment. So, Dr. Smith, while I agree that Superintendent Conroy Bennett is innocent until proven guilty, one of the requirements and the hallmarks of responsible, effective leadership is the avoidance of the appearance of impropriety. And apparently, though no laws may have been broken, for the federal authorities to launch an investigation and for the board to take the decision to suspend her until the final determination has been reached suggests at the very least the superintendent was negligent in her responsibility. And the question is not to you per se, because this is a policy issue. It has to be that the policies that are currently in place within the district have somehow or the other not been tight enough to allow for someone to engage in an action that appears to be in violation of ethics. And I'm not asking anything about, your assumptions about her, the superintendent's guilt or innocence. That is for the courts and, our criminal justice system to ultimately determine if they determine that any charges are warranted at all. But I do think that policymakers and the leadership has a responsibility to implement policies that are not going to undermine the faith and confidence that people must have in their public institutions. And I have to tell you, we see this at the library, we've seen it in City Hall, and now we've seen it rather dramatically in the school district. And again, Dr. Smith, you're not responsible. And I'm not asking you to bear that responsibility, but I would like you to maybe tell us about proposals that have been discussed about what can be done to avoid this in the future.
As I indicated, we're putting some measures in place. Mm-hmm. But what I want to say, and many people are reaching out to us to support us. Mercy College, for example, we have the Heart Association, and they're giving us $4 million. Over the weekend, I spoke to Ms. Fortick, who is trying to put mental health individuals within our district. If you attended our most recent board meeting, what you might have learned is that people are trying to do things with us in terms of vocational training and academically. So we basically are open to many people coming in, presenting things to us that could be helpful to our students. And all of that, there's an oversight. There will be an oversight, and we could provide assurances that money will be spent in the way in which it was attended.
Yes, thank you so much.
Can I wanted to follow up. I wanted to follow up real quick because we mentioned, I think, the money owed to the city is taxes. And I know I'm going to have the controller on soon, Reverend Darren Morton. And I know I saw him say at a school board meeting that it's not so much that the city of Mount Vernon collected the money and just hasn't given the school the money. There is $11 million of uncollected taxes. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I think the school was separated and is collecting its own taxes now or something. And I'm not sure how that works. So if you explain.
What I want to focus on is if the one house bill passes, within that bill, the politicians and legislatures plan to give us that 11.7 million to make us whole. And so let's keep our fingers crossed. I'm very optimistic about that. And then we won't be talking about 11.7 million.
Can you elaborate for a bit on what the one house bill is? Dr. Smith, I have to confess that I myself don't know.
So since this is students and not politics, I'm gonna stick to the children. I'm not gonna elaborate on the one house. It's very labor and intensive. It's a lot of information. The good news is it might affect us and our budget.
Brenda, do you have any questions?
Yes. If I may get in here. So Dr. Smith, what do you see as the three most important challenges that the district face, as well as the district's strengths? And what are your plans to improve upon those strengths and to improve upon those challenges as well? And then, in that question, in the answer, will you also please, because we're kind of like time is moving so quickly here. Everybody want to know about test scores. They want to know about graduation rates, promotion. What are your plans as the acting superintendent to address those issues?
So basically, if I think about three strengths, our strengths are dedicated staff. We have staff members that care, that want to work here at Mount Vernon, they do a tremendous job with our children, and I think that that's a strength. Another strength, though, I think we're a school district that incorporates CTE, the arts, STEAM, IB, sports. That's, to me, very significant. I think also we're addressing mental illness. So we have in each building, we have social workers, psychologists, counselors, especially with the pandemic, some of our children had issues and we're working on that. If we want to talk about some challenges, again, for me, reading is a big factor. I think that, I want our students to read more, read every day, take up the challenge and read because it affects all aspects of academics. Safety. I want to talk about safety. Friday night, I went to the Westchester Medical Center because one of our students took too many pills. She's doing fine, but we have some issues in terms of students eating edibles and becoming ill. So we have to talk about those kind of things that plague our district.
So let me, so tell us more about what are your plans to address the safety, that you talk about, the edibles. So what are your plans to address And you named the reading, but what other things do you see as the challenges for the children, for the district in reference to its academics and your plans to address them, like for improving in test scores? How do you plan to do that? Improving graduation rate, promotion? How do you plan to do that? And then when you're answering, please remember that we have some lay people that are viewing and so not familiar with the acronyms. That's something I always was very point about, on top of when people using acronyms, that everyone may not be familiar with the acronyms. So IB and CTE, we know, but the lay may not know.
Okay, so what are we doing in terms of safety? The district has spent a lot of money in terms of the Brigger company coming to our district in terms of security in every building. And every building, or they're working on also putting security cameras in every single building. They're making a correction in terms of the PA. So if there's something that happens, there's our PA system is working and going into every building. So there's safety things being put in place. Dr. Beverly Jones is charged with security, but really, we've worked on that. Now, in terms of students and behaviors, if you go to Mount Vernon High School, it's been a tremendous turnaround. That's why they call it the new Mount Vernon High School. The past couple of years, there were, you might have heard of some incidents with some fighting. That has just decreased a lot. And it has everything to do, we have a new principal, Dr. Pauline Pierce. She's put things in place, and it's really a different school, and that's why they're saying new. So, the concerns that we had before, those are decreased. In terms of the graduation rate, I just want you to know that this past year, we had the best graduation rate in a long time. Our overall graduation rate was 79%, and we were really happy about that. We want to maintain that graduation rate. So you talk about testing. We on the high school level, we have prep classes for testing. We encourage students to take these prep classes. We also have after-school programs in which we help students as well, and that will continue. That also happens during the summer, so that we could support our youngsters in terms of taking tests.
So let me ask a question in regards to, like, the last board meeting. The assistant superintendent for business, Mr. Silver, did a budget presentation, proposed budget presentation, and he said that the board would be, if they approved it, would be putting forth another 0% tax levy increase, and the budget, I think, would be about $269 million. I don't have my notes in front of me, but $269 million at that time when he presented. So with the millions of dollars in deficit that the board is talking about that the city owes in taxes, but the taxes have not been collected, and also I think it's a separate millions that the school district need to send a certified list to the city in order for them to begin enacting on collecting some taxes. So we're understanding that hasn't been done yet. So that's the part on the school district. But the question is, with these millions of dollars deficit before us, how is it that the district is going to be able to propose a 0% tax levy without cutting any services or staff? But Mr. Silver did mention about using restricted funds. So how is restricted funds going to be used for a budget, and that there will be no capital projects? So what capital projects? I know it's like a number of questions. Maybe take a little notes because we're running out of time and I want to kind of get these questions in. What capital projects that need to take place in our buildings that's not going to be done because the board and administration want to put forth a 0% tax levy increase?
Okay, so thank you for that, for those questions. I'm well aware that people would like to know. yes, it is a budget of 6.9 million, and we we as a district didn't feel that the community could afford an increase, but we can't continue to go this route forever. As I indicated, I'm very optimistic that we're going to get a bailout from the government. We spoke about three possibilities. I shared one. Another possibility is something called the spin up. The spin up means we're entitled in the fall to get $10 million, $10+ million. So we would take five of it now, and then we would have get five um, in the fall. That's the spin up. Um, of course, another way would be to take out a loan. But like I said, I'm very optimistic. I think that we're gonna be able to get the 11.7 million from the governor, and I'm hopeful. Like I said, we spoke to Senator Bailey and we spoke to Assemblyman Pretlow. I know that they've been working very hard to see that we are made whole. In regards to capital projects, we're not able to do that. We can only do emergencies in our building, and that's going to be our focus for right now. There's some things that we had to do in terms of emergency. We wanted to be able to keep our doors open in our school buildings, so there were some things that we had to do in order to do that. The state is making us take down that old Grimes building. Um, that old Mandela building that has to be removed. We have to take that down because it could be harmful to our children. So there's some required things that we will have to do. Let's say if right now we had a flood at Mount Vernon High School, and we had to take care of that because that creates mold. There's some emergency things that we have to do, but in terms of capital projects, we kind of have that on hold. Things might be different, like I said, if we're able to get the assistance that we're asking for.
So are they on hold because money will be taken out to provide a 0% tax levy versus doing the capital projects as needed for the children?
So I'm not real clear on that question. You're asking would money be taken out?
From the capital project fund to help support a 0% tax levy. So is that one of the reasons why a freeze would be on capital projects? No more capital projects will be done except that of emergencies, because there's money set aside in the capital projects. So is some of that money being taken to provide a 0% tax levy increase?
No, it's not. We funding.
Let me ask a question. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Continue. Sorry.
Go ahead,
okay. So basically, if you're asking about capital projects and the money that's in there, we really don't have money in capital projects. What we have right now is money to get us through the rest of the school year, and that's what we're focused on.
So I want to respond to. I had a question from what you. I appreciate your optimisticness. I don't think that's a word, but you understand what I'm saying. You kept saying how you're optimistic. Yeah, optimistic about the things that could happen to bail us out or whatever. What happens if? And it's good if those things happen, but if they don't happen, what do we do as a school district as far as money is concerned? I know, as Dr. Bob mentioned a bond. I know a lot of people might be a little leery about a bond because there have been, and again, no fault of yours, there have been issues brought up with the last few bonds about where the money was used and stuff. So what do we do if we don't have these bailout type situations you said that you're optimistic about?
I'm going to continue to be optimistic. Unfortunately, when you don't have the monies, you have to look towards the monies that you have and make some revisions. So that's what we would have to do. We have to look at what's in our budget, what can we reduce, and that's what we would have to do.
Dr. Bob, I think you had.
I do want to say something, and again, Dr. Smith, I'm sorry that you have to
be in the hot seat.
Yes, I'm sorry, really. I am. Listen,
you stepped in.
Feel for you. We know.
Guys, it goes with the territory. It goes. It goes with the territory. I understand all of that, and I'm here. I'm willing to answer questions. There's some questions I cannot answer, and things. We're working on things, and I'm confident that, and I'm trying to be transparent and give you all the answers that you need.
Yes, that's fine. What I was going to say though is the following: that there is a case to be made that continued bailouts for mismanaged bureaucracies poses what the economists like to term moral hazard. Right now, we're having a debate about the propriety of bailing out Silicon Valley Bank and other associated banks out in California because the leadership mishandled the funds. Although there has yet to be a final determination about what occurred, the handling of the money. I have to tell you, as almost a native son of Mount Vernon, as a Black man who thinks that Mount Vernon has a special place as New York's sole Black majority city, I can tell you that we all hang our heads with shame. I'm going to be honest with you. It's shameful to see these type of reports repeatedly in the city of Mount Vernon, now with the Board of Education as well. And there are many voices that will clamor and oppose bailouts for not just for poorly managed institutions, but specifically bailouts for poorly managed Black cities, which is the Republican talking point these days. And, I hope we get to the point where there will be no requirement of bailouts and that we will be able to have policies and leadership, and your selection heralds this, that will ensure that we don't have such abuses in the future.
So, Dr. Bob.
Yes.
You're making the assumption that that we're in this position because we did something wrong. There was mismanagement. But I've described to you monies that was expected that we didn't receive.
Yes.
So when you say that, please consider, and you're aware, and the city did acknowledge that they owed the district some money. Is that correct?
There were uncollected taxes that were not collected. Not that they collected and didn't give it to you. There were uncollected taxes that, yes.
Uncollected taxes. So we have that. We also know, like I gave you an indication of special ed, how expensive special ed is. I've told you about how expensive charter schools are. You are well aware that we have not increased our taxes. So you're making a statement, and I don't know if that's necessarily fair.
Listen, I'll be honest. It's not fair. Let's talk about fairness here. It's not fair to the residents of Mount Vernon. What continuously goes on? That's what's not fair. We shouldn't be put in a position of even having to call into question the integrity of our leaders. Like, that's what's not fair here.
So you will acknowledge that I stepped into this position on February 14th.
Of course, Dr. Smith. This is not this was not.
So let's talk about. Can we talk about
pointing out that bailouts are, there's problems with them.
Okay, and I respect your opinion.
Can I say one thing? Let me say one thing before you start, and I hate to interrupt you. So we all respect that you had the position a month and 5 days a month, right? And you're not responsible for everything that has gone on in the last couple of decades of Mount Vernon City School District, but the residents of Mount Vernon at some point, you know, there have been different. Dr. Hamilton promised a lot of new change, and we would, and before him there were issues and questions of money, of grant monies being mismanaged, and he was petitioning for a new bond that it would be those things wouldn't happen, and there have been accusations, and accusations do not make them 100% true or that they're factual, but accusations and assumptions that we've had the same thing over and over. At some point, the residents, even though there's a new person, they still keep seeing the same thing, and they're just frustrated, and they want to know how. Okay, we have somebody new. What are you going to do to move us forward so we don't have a repeat of this? Like, you know what I'm saying? And like, and it's just a lot of promises have been made. A lot of nice words have been said by your predecessors, and I say predecessors plural, not one. So and the residents are just burned out. Like at this point, I mean, and not just with the school district, with the library, with City Hall, and with a lot of the institutions of Mount Vernon. So it's just one. I know they're separate entities, but when you're just a resident and a taxpayer of Mount Vernon, you're sitting here like, what the heck? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is one thing after another. So I think people are looking for you, to answer. You're answering. Unfortunately, you're in a position, and the time that you're in follows a lot of mismanagement. And I do want to correct. I want to correct one of the viewers. They said the library was found to have no mismanagement. What the district attorney said is her office did not find that any one person like embezzled or took any money, but found that there was years of mismanagement. So there was mismanagement, but that wasn't a prosecutable offense. So she couldn't do anything.
Such that the New York State Board of Regents made a determination that they needed to remove almost every trustee. Come on, let's stop playing games with one another.
So in terms of Mount Vernon City School District, we're aware of the issues. We plan on moving forward. We plan on really tightening up the bootstraps, looking at our budget, and the budget is being presented. If you were at our board meeting recently, Ken Silver presented the budget. We have to tighten up our bootstraps. As I indicated, policies and procedures are being put in place. I have no problem with oversight. Sometimes oversight is good. If the state wants to come in and provide oversight to the district because of what they feel is impropriety, that's fine. I have no problem. I welcome that. So in terms of moving forward, Dr. Bob, I understand your passion. I understand how taxpayers feel. They want to know that it's money well spent, and they don't want to know that we have a corrupt system that takes away from our students. And so what I can assure you, we're heading in the right direction.
And I just want to add, too, sometimes people's perception is what is people's perception. And you understand what I'm saying? Like, regardless of what's really going on, the perception of what it is, that's their reality. So I do want to say, before we run out of time, I've extended this invitation to your predecessors. When there's issues that you want to address to the community, when you want to reach the community, that you utilize us, whether it be through the paper, the website, or this venue here. I'm opening the door as for you to communicate with the people, because a lot of times, a lot of the information just doesn't trickle down to the people, and a lot of people just do not know what the heck is going on in the city, and they've tuned out right now. And you know what I'm saying? So hopefully we are doing things to educate, inform them, as Brenda like to says, and so people are know more what's going on.
So let me say this, if I may, before we because time is moving on, we close out, and I don't want us to leave with, because Dr. Smith clearly said that there has been an improvement in the graduation rate. Is the graduation rate where we would like to see it as taxpayers, parents? No, but there has been an improvement. And so I want to say that those improvements have come by way of grants, have come by way of programs that were put in place for before school, during school, after school, training, tutorial for students, other programs and things that were put in place that helped with parents and staff and contributing to the increase of those graduation rates. Would we agree with that, Dr. Smith?
Yes, we would. We agree with that.
So one other thing I want to bring up that's a point of topic for some community members is public comments. I, as a parent of 7 children, and a lot of people know now of 6, my son recently passed, but as a former school board trustee, with all that the district faced in reference to shortage of money, need to improve upon test scores, graduation rate and placement, reading, why would the board and administration is somewhat create a problem where there was not a problem in reference to public comments? So public comments were at the beginning of the board agenda. You have the roll call and something else, and public comments was like the third thing that was there. So actually, I like to be exact when I can be exact. It's roll call, order, pledge, roll call, and then call to order, pledge, roll call, and then comments from the public. Comments from the public is like at the last board meeting, a parent that was there that was talking about the needs of children and her 3 children, and beyond her 3 children, but services that the children needed. Why would the board and the administration choose to move public comment from being at the top of the board meeting to almost the last thing of the board meeting? So at the last meeting, the public had to wait 2 hours into the meeting before they were able to speak. So this particular parent, 3 children there to talk about children issues, had to wait. Versus when the public speak in the beginning of the meeting, there was no issue with that. Why would the board and administration choose to kind of like fix something that wasn't broken?
Okay, so I guess I'm not going to be saved by the bell, right?
Nope. Don't worry, it's getting ready to ring. Don't worry.
Okay, so let me just start by taking full responsibility for making that decision. It wasn't the board's decision. I suggested that. Why? Because I wanted children to be heard. I thought, in my infinite wisdom, that I wanted us to listen to children and demonstrate all the wonderful things that the children was doing. I wanted them to be heard. But I want to say this here, and AJ Wilson, it's being said on your show for the first time that we heard the people. We heard Brenda L. Crump on this topic, and it's going back to normal. It will come to the beginning of the meeting the way it was. I personally feel that hopefully that the comments when our children are there won't be such that could be somewhat intimidated or offensive, but we heard the public and we're moving it back. Is that okay now, Brenda L. Crump?
Well, as a parent advocate, as a former school board trustee who would have never agreed with anything like that, because here's the thing, and we got upcoming elections. When trustees go out and they campaign,
wasn't that good? Don't I get a
yeah, wait, hold on. You ask me now. Don't ask me. Everybody know, don't ask me if you don't want the answer. When trustees, because we're coming up upon elections, when trustees go out and campaign, and I was one of them, we want to hear from the community anywhere, anytime, any place. But when we get elected, some of us, because now I'm going to excuse myself from that, we don't want to hear from them because that move was a move that most saw as a deterrent for public comment. And so it's almost like, hold on, don't interrupt me. It's almost like
I don't want to tell the room though, Brenda.
The trustees then say, look, okay, we want to hear from you, but we're going to hear from you after we do X, Y, and Z. But you know what? We are where we are. We're going back to the beginning because y'all were not tone deaf to what the constituents were saying. And that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Thank you, Dr. Smith.
Thank you,
for speaking with the trustees and rescinding your request to them.
That was my
request. What'd you call it?
Huh?
What did you call it? Out of your what?
Infinite wisdom.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just say this. It was never the intentions to infuriate anybody. That was not my intentions at all. I have been sitting at the board meetings in which it gets very heated, and I just wanted children to be heard. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. You came to us, you spoke to us, and we are listening to you. I want to also say I have an open door policy, and sometimes parents have issues that cannot be discussed in public about their children. Feel free. Give me a phone call. Stop by my office so that we could discuss it in greater detail.
I thank you for. Okay, so a couple of things. I'm most leaders' strongest critic. So just representing the people. But what you just did, I don't see much leaders do like that. There was a situation that was brought up. It was brought to your attention. You said that, that was solely you that did it. And you said, you hear it here first. We're going to go back to the way it was, which shows me that, and hopefully the people, that you are at least trying to listen to the public. Now, I'm sure you can't address everybody's need and solve everybody's problems to their satisfaction, but we don't have enough of what just happened here. And while my position is to always be critical, I have to acknowledge that. So I wanted to acknowledge that and give you your kudos for that. Again, you just happen to be, one person in one position is not going to nullify and years of corruption and neglect or whatever just right away. You know what I'm saying? You've been there 35 days or something. You know what I mean? So I thank you for coming on the show. I hope that you don't let this be the last time you come on the show, and that you come out and address the issues that you feel like need to be, when you need to reach the public. I know you'll have your ways through the school and emails and e-blasts and letters, that you also use this venue as to reach the people as well. And I look forward to having a working relationship with you and moving forward on how we can, hopefully move the city school district forward in a positive direction.
Well, I thank you so very much for having me. This has been an interesting hour. I will take you up.
Fast hour.
A fast hour. I will take you up on it. I'm sure that I would be back. Thank you for the invitation, and I appreciate it.
And I want to say to hold on. I want to say to the viewers, there were a lot of people who asked a lot of questions, and there was no way to get everybody's questions. I did put everybody's question on the board, good, bad, or whatever you said. I did put you on, so you were seen on the screen. You know what I'm saying? But there was just no way to get to everybody. So I don't want nobody, far be it anybody say that, I didn't answer your question, or I avoided, or was whatever. I couldn't get to everything, but I appreciate everybody, the engagement. This is what we need. We need more engagement. We need to have these forums, to have these uncomfortable conversations and address the issues. And hopefully, that's what we've been doing the last 9 years, and we'll continue to do. Brenda, last words, then Dr. Kim, last words, and then Bob, and then we're out.
All right, thanks. So keeping with who I am, what I do, keeping the community and parents informed, enlightened, educated, and empowered with knowledge. we cannot allow you, Dr. Smith, to spew out a law, a regulation, a policy that's might be coming into effect and not tell us what it is. Now, you don't have to go into detail, but I will confess, as Dr. Bob, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but at least say what the policy is so that we can look it up and be informed, enlightened, educated, and empowered. That's not, just coming and spewing out part of something and then pulling back on it is not cool. We want to
let me just
know what
say,
it is.
Dr. Bob
line for people.
Dr. Bob asked about the one house. The one house is a real political machinery that I'm not privy and don't know in detail, so I would not have done it any justice. So that's why I asked if he could. It's something that you could look up. If you type in one house,
okay,
it's very detailed. It calls into play changes the senators and assemblymen want to make within our government, and it's a very positive thing that occurred. It's very detailed. I just pulled out what was related to Mount Vernon. So I was not trying to throw something out. I was giving an example of one of the solutions we might have with our budget. But if you look at the one house bill, you'll see it's very, very labor intensive. I'm going, for example, if you just key it in, you'll see that it's a lot of information of which I would not have done any justice to.
I want to say before Dr. Bob goes, I want to say also, so we have an election coming up May 16th. Brenda, how many seats are up?
5 for school board.
So we have five school board seats up. And when is the school board meetings? When do they take place?
So school board meetings.
Go ahead.
School board meetings have been pretty regular, like every other week. So we have one coming up March 28th. And I think the next one after that is April 16th.
Okay, what day was that? The third Wednesday or something? The second Wednesday, something? What is that?
Generally, it's been the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday, but I see that the schedule is different. But there was a set pattern of first Tuesday and third Tuesday.
So the reason I asked this question is, sorry to cut you off. We as a people, this has to do with, I'm critical of our leadership. It got to be, politics is a participatory sport. A lot of people complain about the school district and how the school is run, but never show up at a school board meeting to express themselves. You know what I'm saying? The school board election and the library board election are some of the lowest unattended elections ever, but everybody has something to say about how those venues are run. If you have something, you need to participate. There is an election May 16th. Get out and find out who the candidates are. Be informed. There's going to be forums going on. I know for sure that the NAACP is doing one in April. I think Greater Centennial does one every year, every election for the school board. So make sure that you attend these forums, find out who the candidates are, and vote. First off, that's the first thing. We need to vote. But then voting that's the only part of your duty and your responsibility as a resident, as a taxpayer, as a parent. You now need to go to these school board meetings and engage with the school board members and express your disapproval or frustration or approval or whatever it is there. You know what I'm saying? Like on Facebook is not the place for that. Calling people out and all that other stuff, that does nothing to bring our school forward. So the residents have a responsibility and helping to move the school forward. And I just wanted to put all that out there. There is an important election coming up May 16th, and both the school district and the library. You want to see almost all the seats are up for the library. The future of the library depends on this election. So I need the people to get involved and do their part, not just complain. Get out and vote and show up at these meetings and be a part of the system. Dr. Bob, last words.
Dr. Smith, I wanted to thank you for sharing time with us and with the residents of Mount Vernon to bring us up to speed about developments in the school district. I want to, give a special thanks to you for being willing to come on because it's a controversial moment. I'm sure not all of this takes you as a surprise, by surprise, and handling it with grace and aplomb. And perhaps I'll take you up on the invitation, your open door policy, and visit bearing gifts to make amendments for amendments for being so tough. I hope you understand that it's what people expect me to do just a little bit, and I in no way want to tarnish your reputation or undermine things that you're doing, or to um, just sap you of your energy at a time when we need you to give it your all, and we know you will.
Thank you so very much. Um, but I wanted to end by saying, if you take a look, since you asked about the one house, and the reason that I didn't want to get into it, it talks about tuition, um, SUNY, CUNY tuition. It talks about housing. It talks about bringing in more charter schools in the state. The one budget talks about raising taxes. It it is this really a budget that the Senate and Assemblymen come together, and they have a host of things involved in that one house budget, and so it's very intensive, and I'm hopeful that we will get the $11.7 million.
For those who don't know, for some reason, can you please share what is the school website, the district website? If there's an email that people can reach you at, a business email that they can reach you at, if they have comments
Absolutely.
or any other information like that you want to share, so people can get to you.
So my website is ksmith at mtvernon, that's VERNON, and then C for community, S for school, D for district.org.
Okay. And is there any last, that's it, any last words, anything I didn't ask you that you want to say in closing or anything?
Just in closing, it's about the children. I'm saying that, but I hear Brenda Crump say that all the time. I guess she has some influence over me. It's really about the children. We're hopeful that we could enhance their lives through education.
Brenda L. Crump, last words. Anything?
I would like to see our PTA council come out to every board meeting and talk about the global issues of the PTAs, the school issues. I would like to see our PTAs in our individual buildings, leadership come out to every board meeting and talk about the individual challenges that each building face, bring those issues to our board members, as well as complaints and praises, but bring those challenges forward. And not most importantly, and I would like to see our parents come out to every board meeting and talk about the ongoing issues and challenges and the needs of our children. And most importantly, I'd like to see our children, our young people at the podiums, letting our administration and board members know what is or what is not happening in the buildings for them about their education. Because at the end of the day, it's neither mine, yours, AJ, yours, Dr. Smith, yours, Dr. Bob. It's their education. And the lifelong skills that the parents, I would like to have parents teach their children of advocacy. These are lifelong skills that they will need, because the hope is that they will grow up, live long enough to be adults, to have families, and then they go out and advocate for their children and teach their children. Can nobody tell the story like the person, the children who it impacts the most? That's what I would like to see.
And I often do this. So, secondly, I always say I don't want people to consider this AJ and Damon's paper This is a community paper, and I invite our youth, our young people who want to write editorials or write their concerns and share with the community to send that in to blackwestchester@gmail.com so we can hear more from the youth, so the adults, the leaders in your community, the elected officials can hear from you. I also want to take personal privilege of welcoming Kathy Brewington, who's on here, who's been involved. She is the new president of the Mount Vernon branch of the NAACP. Their next meeting is as Friday coming up. I think that's the 24th. It's new leadership right now, and they're rebuilding and rebuilding and building up the branch. And this is a good time to get involved. Again, my whole theme of everything is we need to get involved. We got to stop sitting back and complaining and talking about each other if we're not involved. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So that's another organization that you can get involved. I am the second vice president, and I am the chair of the Criminal Justice Reform Committee. And I got involved because I didn't see a lot of things going on. So instead of criticizing, I joined. I got it. I went to the few meetings with Brenda. I joined, and now I'm trying to help them build. So that's what we need. We need from our community overall and everything. So with that said, this has been another episode of Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show. This has been episode 364, where we give you the real talk for the community. And Dr. Smith, thank you for coming. And as Dr. Bob articulated, it is our job to ask the tough questions and the critical questions. And I know there were some things that you couldn't answer, you know what I'm saying? But I never want you to take that as we're beating you up. We're always trying to inform the community, and we hear from the community all the things that they feel is wrong, and sometimes we're the voice of the voiceless. So we have to ask those questions. So never feel. I hope that we have a working relationship where we can communicate and have those conversations off and online. You know, so Brenda can give you my cell number so you know how to reach me personally, and I gave you my email address, so I hope that we can move from here and work through it. And good luck. Listen, I would not like to be you at all in this time. I mean, really, you know, with everything going on, the news going on, the rhetoric going on, everything going on, the election going on, you're standing in at a difficult time. And you know what? This is what, leaders that are remembered. History remembers those who shine in these times. So, I hope that is you. And anything that Black Westchester can do to support you or get the word out, please just let us know.
Thank you so very much. Just remember, I'm Mount Vernon born.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yes, you are. So am I. Yes. And I heard you. I was like, okay, you Mount Vernon. Like,
Mount
yes.
Vernon, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the So you know the city intimately, and we need somebody in there that knows the city intimately and hopefully knows how to fix what's wrong and help us usher us into a better time, which is hopefully where we're going. Where we need to be going, because we can't. Yes, hopefully that's where we're going. I'll just leave it there. With that said, to everybody out there, as always, you could be doing something else, but you decided to ride with us, and we greatly appreciate it. We're having a special edition of the Black Westchester Power Hour. One day in the next couple of days, during the day, you'll see flyers and stuff for it. We'll have Eric Garner's mother and George Floyd, either his mother or someone from his family, and we'll be talking to both of them on an array of topics this week on a special edition of the Black Westchester Power Hour. Follow us, and we will share it everywhere. But that's coming up this week. And until next time, peace.
Peace.
Bye now.
Yes, Dr. Smith.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not